In the summer of 2017, 8 college friends rented a boat for a weekend at Cedar Lake. They took selfies on the dock, loaded coolers with ice and beer, and promised their families they'd be back by Sunday night. None of them ever came home. The boat vanished without a trace. No wreckage, no distress calls, no oil slicks on the water. For 5 years, their families searched every inlet, every cove, every hidden corner of the 12-mile lake. Then, in 2022, a drone hobbyist flying over a restricted marsh area captured something that made his blood run cold. Dozens of boats, maybe hundreds, scattered across a hidden graveyard like white bones against dark water. What was found hidden inside their boat would prove the 8 friends hadn't just drowned. They'd been murdered to keep a secret that was worth millions. The call came at 6:43 a.m. on a Tuesday, 5 years and 2 months after Tyler Camden disappeared. Alex was already awake, had been since 4:30, same as every morning, sitting at his kitchen table with black coffee and the marine insurance database pulled up on his laptop. Same routine he'd followed for 1,887 days straight. Search boat registrations, check salvage reports, cross-reference accident logs. His phone buzzed against the scratched formica. Unknown number. "This is Alex." "You Tyler Camden's brother?" The voice was rough, nervous. "The guy who's been calling about missing boats?" Alex's grip tightened on the phone. His chest went tight. That old familiar punch of hope and dread twisted together like rusted wire. "Yeah, who's this?" "Aaron Mills. I do aerial photography. Drone stuff. I think I found something you need to see." Alex was dressed and in his truck before Aaron finished giving him the address. 20 minutes later, he stood in Aaron's cluttered garage, staring at a laptop screen that made his knees go weak. Dozens of boats, maybe 100, scattered across what looked like a hidden inlet, white hulls gleaming against dark water like a maritime graveyard. Pontoons, fishing boats, cabin cruisers, all abandoned, half submerged, rotting in neat rows like someone had been collecting them. "Where is this?" Alex's voice came out hoarse. "North end of Cedar Lake, past the restricted marsh. I was mapping the shoreline for the county when I flew over it." Aaron clicked through the footage. "Look at this one." He zoomed in on a boat near the center of the graveyard. White hull, blue trim, 24 feet. Alex's breath caught. His hands shook as he leaned closer to the screen. "That's it," he whispered. "That's their boat." He'd helped Tyler pick it out at the rental dock 5 years ago. Had watched his little brother run his hands along the gunwale, grinning like a kid at Christmas because it was the nicest boat any of them had ever been on. Tyler had joked it was too fancy for a bunch of college kids, but Sophia had insisted. It was her birthday weekend, and she wanted something special. "You sure?" Aaron asked. Alex nodded, throat closing tight. The registration number was barely visible through the grime and algae, but he'd memorized it years ago. Had called that number into police dispatchers so many times the digits were burned into his brain. "How long has it been there?" Aaron shrugged. "Hard to say. Some of those boats look like they've been rotting for years, others are newer, but the weird thing is..." He clicked to another angle. "They're all arranged, like someone's organizing them." Alex stared at the screen. Aaron was right. The boats weren't randomly scattered. They were positioned in loose rows, almost like a parking lot. Someone had been placing them there deliberately. "I need to get out there," Alex said. Aaron shook his head. "It's restricted wetland. Feds patrol it. You'd need clearance, permits." "I don't give a shit about permits." Alex pulled out his phone. "I'm calling the sheriff." Sheriff Tom Bradley met them at the marina 3 hours later, his patrol boat cutting through the choppy water toward the north end of Cedar Lake. Alex sat in the stern, hands clenched on the safety rail, watching the shoreline blur past. He'd called his mother first. Patricia Camden had cried, not the broken sobs from the early days, but quiet tears that said she'd been waiting for this call for 5 years. She'd wanted to come, but Alex had talked her out of it. He needed to see it first, needed to know what they were walking into. Detective Ray Holloway was already on scene when they arrived, standing waist-deep in murky water beside the hull of Tyler's boat. The detective looked older than Alex remembered, grayer, more tired. The kind of tired that comes from too many unsolved cases. "Boat's been here a while," Holloway called out as Alex waded over. "Hull's compromised. Looks like it took on water and sank, then got dragged up here." Alex reached the boat and pressed his palm against the fiberglass. The hull was slick with algae. The blue trim faded to gray. But it was definitely theirs. He could see the small dent near the bow where Tyler had bumped the dock during their practice run. "Any sign of—" Alex couldn't finish the question. Holloway shook his head. "No remains. But we just started." Alex hauled himself over the gunwale into the boat's interior. The cockpit was filled with stagnant water and debris, but the basic structure was intact. He moved carefully, water sloshing around his boots, looking for anything that might tell him what happened. The cooler was still there, wedged under the stern seat, half buried in silt. Alex pried it loose and lifted the lid. Inside, wrapped in a plastic bag that had somehow stayed sealed, was Sophia's phone. His hands trembled as he pulled it out. The screen was black, dead, but the case was unmistakable. Bright pink with a photo of all 8 friends at Emma's graduation party. Sophia never went anywhere without that phone. "Detective," Alex called out, voice tight. Holloway waded over, took the phone with latex gloves, and turned it over in his hands. "Might be able to recover data," he said, "if the memory card survived." Alex kept searching. Under the port seat, he found Jake's baseball cap, the lucky one he'd worn to every Cubs game since high school. Wedged behind the console, a waterlogged notebook that might have been Rachel's journal. Each discovery was like a punch to the gut. These weren't just artifacts from a boating accident. They were pieces of lives cut short, preserved in plastic and silt, like evidence in a crime scene. "Alex," Holloway's voice was sharp, "you need to see this." The detective was standing near the stern, pointing at something carved into the fiberglass. Alex waded over and knelt down, squinting at the marks. Someone had scratched letters into the hull, crude but deliberate. "Help us." The words were barely visible under the algae, but they were there, carved by someone who knew they were in trouble, someone who wanted to leave a message. Alex's vision blurred, his chest burned. Tyler had been scared, had known something was wrong, had tried to leave a clue. "This wasn't an accident," Alex said, voice raw. Holloway nodded grimly. No, it wasn't. Around them, the boat graveyard stretched out like a nautical cemetery. Dozens of vessels in various states of decay, all of them hiding secrets, all of them waiting to tell their stories. Alex pulled out his phone and started taking pictures of the message, of the boat, of the personal belongings they'd found. Whatever had happened to Tyler and his friends, whoever was responsible for this graveyard, Alex was going to find them, and he was going to make them pay. The evidence lockup at the county sheriff's office smelled like disinfectant and old coffee. Alex sat across from Detective Holloway at a metal table, Sophia's phone between them in a clear plastic bag. The tech specialist, a thin woman named Janet, had been working on it for 3 hours. "Got something," Janet said, not looking up from her computer. "Phone was in a decent waterproof case. Memory card's intact. I've recovered about 60% of the data." Alex's palms were sweating. He'd been running on adrenaline and coffee since they'd pulled the boat from the marsh, and his hands hadn't stopped shaking. "What kind of data?" Holloway asked. Janet clicked through files on her screen. Photos, mostly. Some text messages. Last activity was July 14th, 2017, the day they disappeared. She turned the monitor toward them. The screen showed a photo of all 8 friends on the dock, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. Tyler was in the center, one arm around Sophia, the other around Jake. The girls were all smiling, hair blowing in the lake breeze. Alex recognized the dock immediately. North Point Marina, where they'd rented the boat. The timestamp showed 11:23 a.m. That was about an hour after they picked up the boat, Holloway said. According to the rental records, Janet scrolled to the next photo. This one showed the boat loaded with gear: coolers, towels, a portable speaker. Madison was tossing a beach ball in the air. Ashley was applying sunscreen to Rachel's shoulders. Normal, happy, completely unaware of what was coming. "Keep going," Alex said, voice tight. The next few photos were standard lake day shots, the group swimming off the back of the boat. Tyler at the wheel, sunglasses on, looking every bit the confident captain. Emma taking a selfie with Chloe and Madison in the background. Then the tone shifted. The timestamp jumped to 3:47 p.m. The photo showed Tyler pointing at something off camera, his expression serious. In the background, Alex could see another boat, a larger white cabin cruiser with dark windows. "What's he looking at?" Alex asked. Janet enhanced the image. In the distance, barely visible, was a second boat approaching theirs. The resolution was too poor to make out details, but Alex could see figures on the deck. The next photo was taken 4 minutes later. The cabin cruiser was closer now, maybe 50 yards away. Tyler wasn't smiling anymore. Neither were the others. Sophia was holding her phone like she was filming something. "She was recording," Holloway said. "Check for video files." Janet's fingers flew across the keyboard. "Found one, 47 seconds, same timestamp." She opened the video file. Sophia's voice came through the speakers, shaky but clear. "Tyler, who are those guys?" The camera was pointed at the approaching boat. Alex could see 2 men on the deck, one at the wheel, another standing near the bow. Both were wearing baseball caps pulled low. Tyler's voice, off camera. "I don't know. They've been following us for the last hour." "Following us?" That was Jake, his voice tight with concern. The video zoomed in on the other boat. The man at the bow was holding something in his hands. Binoculars, maybe, or a camera. "Should we call someone?" Rachel's voice, barely audible over the engine noise. The video cut off abruptly. Alex stared at the frozen frame on the screen. "That's it." Janet nodded. "File corrupts after that. Water damage, probably." "What about text messages?" Holloway asked. Janet pulled up the message log. "Most are corrupted, but I recovered a few fragments." She read from the screen. 3:43 p.m. Message to Mom. Weird boat following us. 3:51 p.m. Message to same contact. Tyler thinks we should head back? Alex's jaw clenched. They'd known something was wrong, had tried to get help, but something had stopped them from making it back to shore. "Anything else?" he asked. Janet scrolled through more files. "Some photos from earlier in the day. Looks like they stopped at a cove for lunch." She pulled up an image showing the group on a small beach, the boat anchored nearby. "This one's interesting." The photo showed Tyler and Jake examining something near the boat's engine compartment. Tyler was holding what looked like a small device, square, black, about the size of a matchbox. "What is that?" Alex leaned closer. "Hard to tell from the photo," Janet said. "Could be a GPS tracker or some kind of monitoring device." Alex's blood went cold. Someone was tracking them. Holloway studied the image. Or they found a tracker and were trying to figure out what it was. The detective's phone buzzed. He answered it, listened for a moment, then hung up with a grim expression. That was the Coast Guard. They're doing a full sweep of the boat graveyard. Preliminary count is 87 vessels in various states of decay. Some have been there for decades. Others are much more recent. "How recent?" Alex asked. "Last 2 years, maybe 3? Alex felt sick. 87 boats. How many people had disappeared? How many families had gone through what his was going through? Janet pulled up another photo. This one showed the group from a distance, taken from water level, like someone had been watching them from another boat. "Sophia didn't take this one," Janet said. File metadata shows it was transferred to her phone, not captured by her camera. Transferred how? Bluetooth, probably. Or AirDrop, someone sent this to her? Alex stared at the image. It was creepy, invasive, the kind of photo a stalker might take. All 8 friends were visible, but they were clearly unaware they were being photographed. "It's a threat," Alex said quietly. Someone was letting them know they were being watched. Holloway nodded. "Psychological warfare. Make them nervous. Maybe force them to make a mistake." What kind of mistake? The detective didn't answer, but Alex could see it in his eyes. The kind of mistake that gets 8 young people killed. They spent another hour going through the recovered data, but there wasn't much else. A few more photos from early in the day, some corrupted text messages, the fragments of normal lives cut brutally short. As they prepared to leave, Alex's phone rang. His mother's number. "Any news?" Patricia Camden's voice was fragile, hopeful. "Some," Alex said carefully. "We recovered some photos, evidence that they were being followed." His mother was quiet for a long moment. Then, "They were murdered." It wasn't a question. "We don't know that for sure yet, Mom." "Alex," her voice was steady now, resolved. "Bring them home. Bring my boy home." After she hung up, Alex stood in the parking lot outside the sheriff's office, staring at the recovered phone in its evidence bag. Somewhere in that graveyard of boats was the truth about what happened to Tyler and his friends. And somewhere out there was the person responsible. Alex got in his truck and started the engine. He had work to do, but first he needed to talk to the families, all of them, because if someone was collecting boats, and the people on them, this was bigger than just 8 missing college kids. This was a pattern, and patterns could be broken. The Morrison family home looked exactly the same as it had 5 years ago. Same white shutters, same flower boxes under the front windows, same wooden porch swing where Jake used to sit and tune his guitar. But Linda Morrison looked like she'd aged a decade. She opened the door before Alex could knock, her eyes red-rimmed but alert. "I heard they found the boat," she said without preamble. Alex nodded. "Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask you about something, about Jake's behavior before the trip." She led him into the living room where photos of Jake covered every surface: high school baseball, family vacations, his 21st birthday party. Alex tried not to stare at the shrine his mother had built to her missing son. "What do you want to know?" Linda settled into her chair, hands folded tightly in her lap. "Did Jake mention anything strange? Anyone following him? Any unusual phone calls?" Linda's brow furrowed. "Funny you should ask. About a week before the trip, Jake got a call from someone claiming to be from the boat rental place. They said they needed to verify his insurance information." Alex's pulse quickened. "Did he give them anything?" "Driver's license number, I think. Maybe his Social Security. He was excited about the trip, didn't think twice about it." Her voice cracked. He trusted people too easily. Alex pulled out a notebook. "Do you remember anything else about the call?" Jake said the man had a strange accent, not local, and he asked a lot of questions about the group: how many people, what their plans were, how long they'd be on the water. The same sick feeling Alex had been carrying for 2 days grew heavier in his gut. Someone had been planning this, gathering information, setting them up. "Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask you something difficult. In the days before Jake disappeared, did you notice any strange vehicles in the neighborhood? Anyone watching the house?" Linda's face went pale. "There was a van, dark blue, maybe black. It was parked down the street for 3 days straight. I called the police, but by the time they got here, it was gone." Alex wrote it down, another piece of a puzzle that was getting uglier by the hour. His next stop was the Reeves house across town. David Reeves met him in the driveway, still wearing his work clothes from the auto parts store he managed. "I saw the news," David said, his voice flat. "They found the boat." "Mr. Reeves, I'm trying to piece together what happened in the days leading up to the trip. Did Sophia mention anything unusual?" David's jaw tightened. You mean besides the fact that someone broke into our garage the night before she left? Alex stopped writing. What? Nothing was stolen, but someone had been through Sophia's things. Her camping gear, her life jacket, like they were checking what she was bringing on the trip. Did you report it? Of course I reported it. Police said it was probably just kids looking for something to steal, but Sophia was spooked. She almost didn't go. Alex felt his chest tighten. What changed her mind? Tyler called her, said he'd already paid for the boat, that everyone was counting on her. You know how she was, never wanted to let anyone down. The weight of it hit Alex like a physical blow. His brother had convinced Sophia to go on a trip that killed her. Had Tyler known? Had he been part of whatever happened, or was he just another victim? David continued. There was something else. Sophia got a friend request on Facebook from someone she didn't know. When she clicked on the profile, it was just photos of the lake, dozens of them, all taken from the water, like someone was cataloging every inch of the shoreline. Do you remember the name on the profile? Something generic, Mike Johnson, I think. When Sophia tried to look at it again the next day, the profile was gone. Alex spent the rest of the afternoon visiting the other families. The pattern became clearer with each stop. Emma Clark's mother, Carol, mentioned a strange phone call about lake safety regulations that required personal information about everyone on the boat. Madison Torres's parents remembered a utility worker who'd spent an unusual amount of time checking the electrical meter outside their house, a meter that was clearly visible from Madison's bedroom window. Rachel Kim's father described a man who'd approached Rachel at her part-time job, claiming to be conducting a survey about recreational boating habits. By the time Alex reached the Martinez house, the sun was setting, and his notebook was full of disturbing coincidences. Rosa Martinez spoke limited English, but her daughter Chloe's older sister Maria translated. Mama says there was a man who came to the door 2 days before Chloe left, Maria explained. He said he was from the insurance company, needed to verify information about Chloe's car. But we don't have that insurance company. Did your mother get a good look at him? Maria spoke to her mother in rapid Spanish, then turned back to Alex. She says he was older, maybe 50, gray hair, expensive clothes. He had a briefcase and everything looked official, but something felt wrong. Wrong how? He kept looking past Mama, into the house, like he was trying to see the layout, and he asked if Chloe was home, said he might need to speak with her directly. Alex's blood chilled. What did your mother tell him? That Chloe was at work, the man left his card, said he'd call to schedule another time, but he never did. Do you still have the card? Rosa Martinez disappeared into the kitchen and returned with a business card. Alex took it with shaking hands. The card was professionally printed, expensive stock. It read, Carl Brennan, Senior Marine Insurance Investigator, Lakeside Marine Recovery Services. Alex stared at the name. He'd never heard of Lakeside Marine Recovery, but something about it felt familiar. Mrs. Martinez, can I keep this? Rosa nodded, her eyes worried. As Alex drove home through the darkening streets, his mind raced. Someone had been systematically gathering information about all 8 kids, learning their routines, their families, their plans. This wasn't random. It wasn't a crime of opportunity. It was a hunt. Back at his apartment, Alex fired up his laptop and searched for Lakeside Marine Recovery Services. The company had a website, clean, professional, specializing in insurance investigations and boat salvage operations. The owner's bio made Alex's stomach drop. Carl Brennan, 23 years in marine insurance investigation. Licensed salvage operator. Specializing in recovery of missing or stolen watercraft. The same man who'd shown up at the Martinez house. The same man whose business card was sitting on Alex's kitchen table. Alex clicked through the website's gallery of recovered boats. Dozens of them, all neatly arranged in what looked like a salvage yard. His breath caught. The aerial view looked familiar. Very familiar. It was the same location where they'd found Tyler's boat. Carl Brennan wasn't just investigating insurance fraud. He was running it, using his legitimate salvage business as cover for whatever had happened to Tyler and his friends. Alex grabbed his phone and called Detective Holloway. "I found him," Alex said when the detective answered. "I found the bastard who killed them." But even as he said the words, Alex knew this was just the beginning. If Brennan had been operating for years, collecting boats and covering his tracks, then Tyler and his friends weren't his first victims. They might not even be his last. Detective Holloway's office felt smaller at midnight, the fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across stacks of case files and empty coffee cups. Alex sat across from the detective's desk, Carl Brennan's business card between them, like a piece of evidence that could explode. "I ran Brennan through our database," Holloway said, rubbing his eyes. "Clean record, no arrests, no complaints. Been operating Lakeside Marine Recovery for 8 years. Even has commendations from the State Insurance Board." Alex's fist clenched on his knee. "He's been planning this for months, maybe years. You saw the pattern, the phone calls, the break-ins, the surveillance." "I see coincidences," Holloway said carefully. "Circumstantial evidence, nothing that would hold up in court." "What about the boat graveyard?" "That's his property. It's a legitimate salvage operation, licensed and inspected. The boats we found could all be explained as insurance recoveries, abandoned vessels, storm damage." Alex slammed his palm on the desk. 87 boats, Ray. 87. How many people have to disappear before you call it a pattern?" Holloway leaned back in his chair. "I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying we need more than a business card and some suspicious phone calls to bring down a man with Brennan's reputation." "Then let's get more." Alex pulled out his laptop and opened the files he'd been compiling all evening. "I've been cross-referencing missing persons reports with boat registrations. In the last 5 years, 36 people have disappeared from Cedar Lake and the surrounding waterways. All during peak season, all in good weather, all involving rental boats." Holloway studied the screen. "That's a lot of coincidence." "It's not coincidence, it's business." Alex clicked to another file. "Look at this. Insurance payouts for stolen or missing boats in the same time period, $12 million, and guess who investigated most of the claims?" The detective's expression darkened. "Brennan. He's been running a scam. Stage boat thefts, collect insurance money, hide the evidence in his salvage yard. But sometimes people see too much. Sometimes witnesses need to be eliminated." Alex's voice cracked on the last word. Tyler and his friends hadn't just been in the wrong place at the wrong time. They'd stumbled onto something bigger, and it had cost them their lives. Holloway stood up and paced to the window. "Even if you're right, proving it is another matter. Brennan's got connections, political influence. We'd need smoking gun evidence to take him down." "Then let's find it." "Alex, listen to me. If Brennan is what you think he is, if he's been killing people for years, then he's dangerous, professional. You start poking around, you might end up like your brother." The words hit Alex like a physical blow, but they also crystallized his resolve. "I'm already in this, Ray. The moment I found that boat, I became a threat to him. The only way out is through." Holloway turned from the window. "What are you proposing?" "Undercover operation. I approach Brennan, tell him I want to file an insurance claim for a stolen boat. Get him talking, maybe wearing a wire." "Absolutely not. You're a civilian. You're emotionally compromised. It's too dangerous." "Then what do you suggest?" Before Holloway could answer, his phone rang. He glanced at the caller ID and frowned. "It's dispatch. At this hour, it's never good news." He answered on speaker. "This is Holloway." "Detective, we've got a situation at Cedar Lake. Anonymous tip about suspicious activity at the North Marsh. Units are en route." Alex's blood went cold. "That's where we found the boat." Holloway was already grabbing his jacket. "We're on our way." The drive to Cedar Lake took 25 minutes through empty back roads. Alex rode shotgun in Holloway's unmarked sedan, watching the dark countryside blur past. His mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. They arrived to find 3 patrol cars parked at the boat launch, their red and blue lights painting the water in shifting colors. Sheriff Bradley met them at the shoreline. "What's the situation?" Holloway asked. Anonymous caller reported seeing someone moving boats in the restricted area. By the time we got here, whoever it was had cleared out, but they left something behind. Bradley led them down a muddy path to the water's edge. In the beam of his flashlight, Alex could see fresh tire tracks leading down to the water, wide tracks like those from a heavy-duty trailer. "Someone launched a boat here tonight," Bradley said. "Recently. Tracks are still fresh." They followed the shoreline toward the salvage area. Even in the darkness, Alex could see that something had changed. The neat rows of abandoned boats were disrupted, gaps where vessels had been. "They're moving them," Alex said. "Brennan knows we're onto him." Holloway played his flashlight across the water. "How many are missing?" "Hard to tell in the dark, maybe a dozen, including some of the newer ones." Alex waded into the shallow water, following the disturbed mud where boats had been dragged. Near the center of the graveyard, he found something that made his heart stop. Tyler's boat was gone. "Son of a bitch," Alex breathed. "He took it. He took their boat." Holloway waded over. "Evidence tampering. We can get a warrant for that." "If we can find where he moved it." Alex looked out across the dark expanse of Cedar Lake. 12 miles of water, hundreds of inlets and coves. He could hide a boat anywhere. They spent another hour documenting the scene, but it was clear that Brennan, if it had been Brennan, was long gone. As the patrol cars prepared to leave, Alex's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. His blood turned to ice as he read the message. "Stop looking or join your brother." Holloway read the text over Alex's shoulder. "That's a direct threat. We can use this." "Use it for what? To prove Brennan's still out there, still dangerous?" Alex stared at the phone screen. "He's escalating, moving evidence, making threats. He's cornered, and cornered animals do desperate things. All the more reason to let law enforcement handle this." Alex looked out across the dark water where his brother had died. Somewhere out there, Brennan was destroying evidence, covering his tracks, preparing to disappear or strike again. The system had failed Tyler once. Alex wouldn't let it fail him again. "I'm done waiting," Alex said quietly. "I'm done hoping the system will work. If you won't go after him, I will." "Alex, don't do anything stupid." But Alex was already walking back toward his truck, his mind made up. Brennan wanted to play games? Fine, but this time Alex would be ready for him. He just hoped he was ready for what he might find. Alex didn't go home that night. Instead, he drove to his workshop, a converted garage behind his apartment, where he repaired boat engines for extra cash. The familiar smell of motor oil and metal shavings helped calm his nerves as he planned his next move. He spread everything out on his workbench: the business card, photos from the boat graveyard, printouts of the insurance claims, the threatening text message. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, the pattern was undeniable. Brennan had been operating for years, perfecting his system, but every system had weaknesses. Alex fired up his laptop and dove deeper into Brennan's background. Lakeside Marine Recovery had contracts with 6 different insurance companies. The business address was a P.O. box, but the salvage yard was registered to a shell company called North Shore Holdings. He traced the ownership through layers of corporate paperwork until he found what he was looking for: a physical address. Not the salvage yard they'd already found, but a house. Brennan's home address, buried in property tax records. 1247 Lakeshore Drive, a waterfront property on the south end of Cedar Lake. Alex memorized the address, then cleared his browser history. If he was going to do this, he'd do it right. The next morning, Alex called in sick to work and drove past Brennan's house. It was isolated, a modern glass and steel structure built on a wooded lot with its own private dock, perfect for someone who needed to move boats without being observed. He parked a quarter-mile down the road and walked back through the trees. From his vantage point behind a stand of pines, he could see the entire property. Brennan's truck was in the driveway, the same white pickup that had left tire tracks at the boat launch. At 9:30 a.m., Brennan emerged from the house carrying a briefcase. He was exactly as Rosa Martinez had described. 50s, gray hair, expensive clothes. He looked like a successful businessman, not a killer. Alex watched Brennan drive away, then waited another 10 minutes to make sure he wasn't coming back. The house appeared empty. Moving quickly but carefully, Alex approached the dock. 2 boat slips, both occupied. One held a sleek speedboat with low-profile engines, perfect for moving fast and quiet across the lake. The other slip contained something that made Alex's breath catch. Tyler's boat. It had been cleaned, the algae scrubbed away, the hull polished. But Alex recognized every scratch, every detail. It was definitely their boat, the one they'd pulled from the graveyard less than 48 hours ago. Alex pulled out his phone and took photos from every angle. Then he climbed aboard. The interior had been thoroughly cleaned, but Alex knew boats. He knew where evidence might hide. He checked the bilge pump housing, the areas behind instrument panels, anywhere small items might get trapped. Under the port console, wedged behind a tangle of wires, his fingers found something hard and rectangular. He pulled it free, a small black device about the size of a matchbox. The same thing Tyler and Jake had been examining in the recovered photo. A GPS tracker. Professional grade, with a magnetic mount. Alex turned it over in his hands, studying the serial number etched into the casing. This was how Brennan had found them, how he'd followed them to the perfect spot for an ambush. But why keep the tracker? Why risk having evidence that tied him to the crime? The answer came to him with sickening clarity. Brennan wasn't done. He was planning to use the boat again for another accident, another group of victims who would simply disappear into the lake. Alex pocketed the tracker and continued his search. In the stern storage compartment beneath a pile of life jackets, he found a waterproof case. Inside were documents, insurance forms, boat registrations, and something that made his blood run cold, a list of names, handwritten. Some were crossed out in red ink. All 8 of his brother's friends were there: Tyler, Jake, Sophia, Emma, Madison, Ashley, Rachel, and Chloe. Every single name had a thick red line drawn through it. Below their names were 8 more, written in fresh ink, members of the Westfield University Sailing Club, scheduled for a weekend trip to Cedar Lake the following month. Brennan was already planning his next move. Alex photographed the list with shaking hands, then carefully replaced everything exactly as he'd found it. He had what he needed, evidence that Brennan was not only responsible for Tyler's death, but planning more murders. As he prepared to leave, Alex heard the rumble of an engine. He looked up to see Brennan's truck coming down the driveway, much earlier than expected. Panic shot through Alex's system. He was trapped on the dock with nowhere to hide. The truck was maybe 30 seconds away from the house. Alex did the only thing he could. He slipped over the side of the boat into the cold lake water. The dock was built high enough that he could tread water underneath it, hidden by the shadows and cross-bracing. He heard Brennan's truck door slam, then footsteps on the wooden dock above his head. The footsteps stopped directly over where Alex was hiding. "I know you're here," Brennan called out, his voice carrying easily across the water. Alex Camden, Tyler's big brother, the one who can't let sleeping dogs lie. Alex forced himself to breathe slowly, quietly. The water was freezing, and his muscles were already starting to cramp. "You think you're smart, don't you?" Brennan continued. "Think you're going to be the hero who solves the mystery, but you have no idea what you're dealing with." The footsteps moved along the dock. Alex heard Brennan board Tyler's boat, moving around the cockpit. "Touching," Brennan said. "Really touching. The grieving brother, looking for closure. But closure isn't always what people expect." Something splashed into the water near Alex. He turned his head slightly and saw a concrete block sinking into the depths, trailing rope behind it. "Your brother was smart too," Brennan called out. "Figured out what I was doing, thought he could blackmail me, said he had evidence hidden away, insurance that would keep him and his friends safe." Alex's heart pounded. Tyler had known, had tried to protect his friends. "But I've been doing this longer than he'd been alive," Brennan continued. "I know how to make problems disappear. 8 kids having a tragic boating accident? Happens more often than you'd think." The footsteps moved back down the dock toward the house. Alex waited until he heard the front door close, then pulled himself up onto the dock, water streaming from his clothes. He ran through the trees to his truck, his mind racing. Brennan knew Alex was investigating him, knew he was getting close. The game had changed from cat and mouse to something much more dangerous. Alex drove straight to the sheriff's office, the GPS tracker and photos burning in his pocket. He had evidence now, real evidence that could put Brennan away. But as he pulled into the parking lot, he saw something that made his blood freeze. Brennan's white pickup was parked right next to Detective Holloway's sedan. Through the office windows, Alex could see the 2 men sitting together, talking like old friends. Brennan wasn't just a killer. He was connected, protected, and Alex had just walked into a trap. Alex sat in his truck in the sheriff's office parking lot, hands gripping the steering wheel so tight his knuckles had gone white. Through the window he could see Brennan and Detective Holloway deep in conversation, occasionally laughing like they were sharing old war stories. How long had Holloway been compromised? Had he been feeding information to Brennan from the beginning, or was this something new? Alex's phone buzzed. A text from Holloway. "Where are you?" "Need to discuss the case." Alex stared at the message. If he walked into that office now, he might not walk back out, but running would only confirm Brennan's suspicions. He needed to play this smart. He texted back, "On my way. Found something important." Alex took a deep breath and walked into the sheriff's office like nothing had changed. Holloway met him in the lobby, his smile not quite reaching his eyes. "Alex, good. Carl Brennan wanted to meet you. He's been very helpful with the investigation." Brennan stood up as they entered Holloway's office, extending his hand with the practiced smile of a successful businessman. "Mr. Camden, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your brother and his friends were fine young people." Alex shook the offered hand, fighting the urge to break every finger. "Thank you. I understand you're helping with the investigation?" "In whatever way I can. When Detective Holloway told me about the boat graveyard discovery, I immediately offered the resources of my salvage company. We want to get to the bottom of this as much as you do." The man's audacity was breathtaking. Alex forced himself to remain calm. "That's very generous of you." "Carl was just explaining how these insurance fraud rings operate," Holloway said. "Apparently, criminals will stage boat thefts, then hide the evidence in remote areas. Sometimes innocent people get caught in the crossfire." "Exactly," Brennan nodded gravely. "These are dangerous people, Mr. Camden. Professional criminals who won't hesitate to eliminate witnesses. That's probably what happened to your brother and his friends. Wrong place, wrong time." Alex played along. "Do you have any leads on who might be responsible?" Brennan exchanged a glance with Holloway. "We have some theories, but we need to be very careful. If word gets out that we're closing in, they might destroy evidence. Or worse, target anyone they think is getting too close to the truth." The threat was crystal clear, delivered with a smile and a concerned tone. Alex nodded, like he understood. "What can I do to help?" "Actually," Holloway said, "Carl had an interesting suggestion. He thinks you might be able to help us set up a sting operation." Alex's pulse quickened. "What kind of sting?" Brennan leaned forward. "These criminals often target people asking too many questions about missing boats. Someone like you, for instance. If you were to make some inquiries in the right places, put yourself out there as someone looking for answers. You want me to be bait?" "We want you to help us catch the people responsible for your brother's death," Holloway said. "But only if you're comfortable with it. There would be risks." Alex pretended to consider it. "What exactly would I have to do?" "Nothing too dangerous," Brennan said. "Maybe visit some marinas, ask questions about boat thefts. Let it be known that you're investigating your brother's disappearance. If our theories are correct, they'll reach out to you." "And you'll be watching?" "Every step of the way," Holloway assured him. "Full surveillance, backup teams. You'd never be in real danger." Alex nodded slowly. "Okay, I'll do it, whatever it takes to find Tyler's killers." Brennan smiled. "Excellent. I'll put together a list of locations where you should start asking questions, places where these criminals are known to operate." They spent another 20 minutes discussing details, but Alex barely heard the words. His mind was racing, trying to figure out Brennan's endgame. Why involve him in a fake sting operation? Why not just kill him and be done with it? The answer came to him as they shook hands goodbye. Brennan needed Alex to disappear in a way that wouldn't raise suspicions. A botched sting operation, a civilian who got too close to dangerous criminals. It would be the perfect cover story. Alex left the sheriff's office with a list of marinas to visit and a sick feeling in his stomach. He was walking deeper into Brennan's web, but it was the only way to gather enough evidence to expose the truth. His first stop was North Point Marina, where Tyler and his friends had rented their boat. The manager, a weathered man named Pete Sullivan, remembered the group well. "Nice kids," Pete said, leaning against the dock railing. "Real tragedy what happened to them." "I'm trying to understand what went wrong," Alex said, following the script Brennan had given him. "Have you had problems with boat thefts? Insurance fraud?" Pete's expression darkened. "You asking for any particular reason?" "My brother's boat was found in some kind of salvage yard. Police think it might be connected to a larger criminal operation." Pete glanced around the marina, then leaned closer. "Can I give you some advice, son?" "Stop asking questions. Some stones are better left unturned." "What do you mean?" "I mean there are people around here who don't like folks poking into their business, people with connections, people who can make problems disappear." Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the lake breeze. "Are you talking about Carl Brennan?" Pete's face went pale. He stepped back like Alex had just confessed to a crime. "I don't know what you're talking about," Pete said quickly. "I think you should leave." But as Alex walked back toward his truck, Pete called out quietly, "Kid, your brother asked me the same questions a week before he died. Told me he thought someone was planning something bad. I told him to be careful." Alex drove straight to his workshop, hands trembling as he locked the door behind him. Tyler's flash drive felt like it was burning a hole in his pocket. His little brother had been trying to save his friends, had known they were walking into danger, and had tried to leave evidence behind. He plugged the drive into his laptop with shaking fingers. The screen filled with folders, dozens of them, organized by date and labeled with cryptic names like Insurance Claims Analysis and Boat Movement Patterns. Alex opened the first folder. It contained spreadsheets tracking insurance payouts for missing boats over a 3-year period. Tyler had been thorough, cross-referencing claims with weather reports, investigating whether the boats had actually been stolen or just staged to look that way. The pattern was damning. Boats would be reported stolen during perfect weather conditions, always from remote locations with no witnesses. The insurance companies would pay out quickly, usually based on investigations conducted by the same man, Carl Brennan. The second folder made Alex's blood run cold. It was titled Surveillance Photos and contained dozens of images of Brennan meeting with various people, dock workers, marina managers, even what looked like police officers. All the photos were taken from a distance, but Tyler had somehow managed to document an entire network of corruption. In one photo, Brennan was handing an envelope to a man in a sheriff's deputy uniform. Alex zoomed in on the face, and his stomach dropped. It was Deputy Frank Walsh, one of the officers who had worked Tyler's missing person case. Another photo showed Brennan at a restaurant with Detective Holloway. They were laughing, sharing drinks like old friends. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 months before Tyler disappeared. Alex's chest tightened. The corruption went deeper than he'd imagined. How many people were on Brennan's payroll? How many officials had helped cover up the murders? The third folder was labeled Audio Recordings and contained a single MP3 file. Alex put on headphones and hit play. Tyler's voice came through clearly. "This is Tyler Camden, July 8th, 2017. I'm recording this because I think Carl Brennan is planning something. I've been tracking his insurance fraud operation for 3 months, and I think he knows I'm onto him." Alex closed his eyes, hearing his brother's voice for the first time in 5 years. "Someone broke into my apartment last week. Nothing was stolen, but my computer had been accessed. My research files were copied. I think Brennan is trying to figure out how much I know." Tyler's voice grew more urgent. "I found evidence that he's not just stealing boats for insurance money. I think he's been killing people, witnesses who got too close. There are at least 6 missing person cases that match his pattern." The recording crackled with static, then Tyler's voice returned. "Sophia organized this lake trip for her birthday. I tried to talk her out of it, but she's so excited. I can't tell her why I'm scared. Can't tell any of them. But I have a bad feeling about this." There was a long pause, then, "If something happens to us, if this recording is found, I want everyone to know that Carl Brennan is a killer. He's been using his position as an insurance investigator to cover up murders. Detective Holloway is helping him. Maybe others, too." The recording ended abruptly. Alex sat in stunned silence. Tyler had known they were walking into a trap, had known Brennan was planning to kill them, but he'd gone on the trip anyway, probably hoping to protect his friends to gather more evidence. The final folder was labeled Emergency Contacts and contained a single document with FBI contact information and a detailed summary of Tyler's investigation. Alex realized what his brother had been planning. If he didn't come back from the lake trip, this evidence was supposed to go to federal authorities who weren't part of Brennan's network. But Tyler had never gotten the chance to send it. Alex copied all the files to his own computer, then made backup copies on 3 separate flash drives. He wasn't going to let Tyler's evidence disappear like Tyler himself had. His phone rang. Brennan again. "Alex, how are the marina visits going? Learning anything interesting?" Alex forced his voice to stay steady. "Pete Sullivan at North Point was very helpful. He thinks there's definitely something suspicious going on." "Excellent. I think it's time we move to the next phase of our operation. Can you meet me at my office tomorrow morning? I have some new leads I'd like to discuss." Alex's blood chilled. Brennan's office was probably the isolated house on Lakeshore Drive, the same place where Tyler's boat was hidden. "Sure. What time?" 9 a.m. And Alex? "Come alone. We can't risk compromising the investigation." The line went dead. Alex stared at his phone, knowing he was being invited to his own execution. But Tyler's evidence had given him something Brennan didn't expect, knowledge of the full scope of the conspiracy. And Alex had no intention of walking into that meeting defenseless. He spent the next hour making copies of Tyler's files and preparing them for multiple recipients. If Brennan killed him tomorrow, at least the evidence would survive. Then Alex made a call to the one person he hoped he could still trust: his mother. "Alex?" "It's late, honey. Is everything okay?" "Mom, I need you to listen carefully. Tomorrow morning, if you don't hear from me by noon, I want you to take a package to the FBI field office in Little Rock. Don't call the local police. Don't trust anyone except federal agents." "Alex, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "I found evidence about what happened to Tyler. Real evidence. But the people responsible have been covering it up for years. If something happens to me..." "Nothing's going to happen to you. Promise me, Mom. Promise you'll take the package to the FBI." Patricia Camden was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I promise. But Alex, be careful. I can't lose both my boys." After hanging up, Alex prepared the evidence package and left it on his mother's doorstep with detailed instructions. Then he went back to his workshop and opened the gun safe his father had left him. The .38 revolver felt heavy in his hands. Alex had learned to shoot as a kid, but he'd never imagined using a gun to avenge his brother's murder. He checked the cylinder, loaded 6 rounds, and slipped the gun into his jacket pocket. Tomorrow morning, he would walk into Brennan's trap. But unlike Tyler and his friends, Alex would be ready for what was waiting. The game was almost over. One way or another, tomorrow would bring answers and justice. Alex didn't sleep. He spent the night in his workshop, going over Tyler's evidence one more time, memorizing every detail. By dawn, he knew Brennan's operation inside and out, the network of corrupt officials, the pattern of staged boat thefts, the systematic elimination of witnesses. At 7 a.m., he drove to his mother's house and watched from across the street until she left for work. The evidence package was gone from her doorstep. Patricia had followed his instructions. Now came the hard part. Alex arrived at Brennan's house on Lakeshore Drive at exactly 9 a.m. The white pickup was in the driveway, but something felt different. Too quiet, too isolated. The neighboring houses were empty. Vacation rentals that wouldn't be occupied for weeks. Perfect for making someone disappear. Alex parked in the driveway and walked to the front door, the .38, a comforting weight in his jacket pocket. He knocked twice. Brennan answered with his practiced smile, but Alex could see the tension in his eyes. "Alex, right on time. Come in, come in." The house was modern and sterile, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. Alex could see Tyler's boat still tied to the dock, cleaned and ready for whatever Brennan had planned. "Coffee?" Brennan asked, gesturing toward the kitchen. "I'm fine." Alex remained standing, keeping his distance. "You said you had new leads?" "Indeed I do." Brennan moved to a desk near the windows and picked up a manila folder. "I've been analyzing the pattern of boat thefts, and I think I know where the criminals are operating from." He opened the folder and spread out what looked like marine charts. But as Alex stepped closer, he realized they weren't charts at all. They were detailed maps of Cedar Lake's deepest sections, marked with GPS coordinates and depth measurements. "You see," Brennan said conversationally, "the key to a successful disposal operation is knowing exactly where the deepest water is, where bodies will never be found." Alex's hand moved instinctively toward his jacket. "Disposal operation?" Brennan's smile never wavered. "Your brother was smart, Alex. Smarter than I gave him credit for. He documented everything. My business, my associates, my methods. Very thorough work." "I don't know what you're talking about." "Of course you do. You found his evidence. Tyler told me he'd hidden a flash drive somewhere safe, insurance to keep his friends alive. But insurance only works if the other party honors the deal." Brennan moved away from the desk, circling toward the kitchen. Alex turned to keep him in sight. "Tyler thought he could blackmail me," Brennan continued. "Thought he could save his friends by threatening to expose my operation, but he miscalculated. He assumed I cared about being caught. You've been doing this for years, killing people, covering it up." "Killing people?" Brennan laughed. "Alex, you make it sound so dramatic. I'm a businessman. I solve problems. Sometimes those problems happen to be people, but it's nothing personal." Alex's blood boiled. 8 college kids, nothing personal. 8 college kids who stumbled onto something they shouldn't have. Tyler was following me, taking photos, recording conversations. His friends became collateral damage. Brennan reached the kitchen island and opened a drawer. Alex tensed, ready to draw his gun, but Brennan only pulled out a pair of latex gloves. "The beauty of my business," Brennan said, pulling on the gloves, "is that it's self-concealing. Missing boaters, tragic accidents, equipment failures, all very believable. Insurance companies pay out quickly to avoid bad publicity. And the police help you cover it up." "Some police?" "Holloway's been useful, though he doesn't know the full extent of my operations. He thinks I'm just running insurance fraud, skimming money off false claims. He has no idea about the more permanent solutions I sometimes employ." Alex slowly reached into his jacket. "Like murdering witnesses. Like managing risk." Brennan's tone remained conversational, like they were discussing the weather. "Your brother represented an unacceptable risk, as do you." Brennan's hand moved toward another drawer, this one closer to where Alex was standing. Alex knew he was running out of time. "How many others?" Alex asked, trying to keep Brennan talking while he got into position. "How many people have you killed?" Killed is such an ugly word. I prefer to think of it as problem resolution. Brennan opened the second drawer. "Tyler and his friends make 8. Before that, there was a young couple who got too curious about missing boats, a marina manager who asked too many questions, a Coast Guard investigator who was getting close to the truth." Alex's hand closed around the grip of his revolver. 15 people? 17, actually. You're forgetting the 2 that got away." Brennan's smile turned cold. "Until now." Brennan's hand came out of the drawer holding a pistol, larger than Alex's revolver, black and deadly serious. "The plan was to make this look like a boating accident," Brennan said, raising the gun. "Grieving brother takes Tyler's boat out for a memorial trip, gets caught in rough weather, tragic drowning. But you've made this more complicated than it needed to be." Alex drew his revolver in one smooth motion, bringing it up as Brennan swung his pistol around. For a split second, they faced each other across the kitchen island, both armed, both knowing only one of them would walk away. "You killed my brother," Alex said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. "Your brother killed himself," Brennan replied. "He should have minded his own business." They fired simultaneously. Brennan's shot went wide, shattering the window behind Alex. Alex's bullet caught Brennan in the shoulder, spinning him around and sending his gun skittering across the floor. Brennan staggered back against the kitchen counter, clutching his wounded shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers. "You have no idea what you've done?" Brennan gasped. "This operation is bigger than just me. Kill me, and you'll never find all the people involved." Alex kept his gun trained on Brennan while he kicked the other pistol away. "Then start talking. Who else is involved? How many officials are on your payroll?" Brennan laughed, a wet sound that turned into a cough. "You think this ends with me? I'm just middle management, Alex. There are people above me, people with real power, people who won't let you walk away from this." "We'll see about that." Alex pulled out his phone and dialed 911, keeping the gun pointed at Brennan. 911, what's your emergency?" "This is Alex Camden. I'm at 1247 Lakeshore Drive. I have a suspect in custody for multiple murders. I need paramedics and federal agents, not local police." Brennan smiled through his pain. "Federal agents? You think they're not part of this too?" But Alex wasn't listening anymore. Through the shattered window, he could see Tyler's boat on the dock, finally free from the man who had used it to cover up 8 murders. In the distance, sirens were already approaching. Tyler's evidence was in the hands of the FBI. Brennan was wounded and captured. The truth was finally coming out. But as Alex looked at the blood pooling on Brennan's kitchen floor, he realized this wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a much larger fight. The FBI arrived before the local police, which probably saved Alex's life. Special Agent Sarah Donnelly stepped through the shattered glass of Brennan's front door with her weapon drawn, taking in the scene with sharp eyes. Alex standing over a wounded Carl Brennan, the smoking gun still in his hand. Blood splattered across the kitchen tiles. "Alex Camden?" she asked, badge visible on her tactical vest. "That's me. This is Carl Brennan. He's responsible for the murders of my brother and 7 others, plus at least 9 more victims over the past 5 years." Donnelly's partner, Agent Mike Stevens, secured Brennan's weapon while paramedics worked on his shoulder wound. Brennan was conscious but pale, his expensive clothes soaked with blood. "Your mother delivered quite a package to our Little Rock office this morning," Donnelly said, holstering her weapon. 17 years of documented evidence. Insurance fraud, police corruption, systematic murder, if even half of it's true. It's all true, Alex said, finally lowering his revolver. Tyler spent months investigating Brennan's operation. He knew they were walking into a trap, but he went anyway to try to protect his friends. Brennan coughed, trying to speak. Agent Stevens leaned closer. "What's he saying?" He's asking for a lawyer," Stevens said. Donnelly shook her head. "Smart man. He's going to need a good one." Over the next hour, the house filled with federal agents, crime scene technicians, and evidence specialists. They photographed everything, bagged and tagged every piece of potential evidence, and carefully documented the scene. Alex gave his statement 3 times, once to Agent Donnelly, once to her supervisor, and once to an assistant U.S. attorney who arrived by helicopter from Little Rock. Each time, he told the same story. Tyler's investigation, Brennan's threats, the corruption network that had covered up 17 murders. "The most damaging evidence is on Tyler's flash drive," Alex explained to the prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Rebecca Walsh. "Financial records showing systematic insurance fraud, photos of Brennan meeting with corrupt officials, audio recordings of him discussing the murders." Walsh nodded as she reviewed copies of Tyler's files on her laptop. "This is incredibly thorough work. Your brother missed his calling. He should have been a federal investigator. He just wanted to protect his friends. And he ended up protecting a lot more people than that. If Brennan had continued operating, who knows how many more would have died." By afternoon, the scope of the investigation had expanded dramatically. Federal agents raided Brennan's salvage yard, his business office, and the homes of 6 suspected accomplices. Detective Holloway was arrested at the sheriff's office, along with Deputy Frank Walsh and 2 marina managers. Sheriff Bradley held a press conference, his face grim as he announced that the Cedar Lake missing persons cases were now part of a federal murder investigation. "We are cooperating fully with federal authorities," Bradley said, reading from a prepared statement. "Anyone with information about Carl Brennan, Lakeside Marine Recovery Services, or suspicious boat activity on Cedar Lake is urged to contact the FBI immediately." Alex watched the press conference from Agent Donnelly's temporary command post at the marina. The parking lot was filled with news vans, FBI vehicles, and family members of the victims who had driven for hours to be there when the truth finally came out. "Your mother's here," Donnelly said, appearing at Alex's shoulder. Patricia Camden looked older than her 62 years, her face etched with 5 years of grief and worry. But when she saw Alex, her expression crumbled with relief. "Alex," she wrapped him in a fierce hug. "When I got your call this morning, when I took that package to the FBI, I thought I was going to lose you too. I'm okay, Mom, and we got him. We got the bastard who killed Tyler." Patricia pulled back, tears streaming down her face. "Tyler would be so proud of you." Around them, other families were arriving. David Reeves drove up with Sophia's mother. The Morrisons came together, holding hands like they were afraid to let go. One by one, the families of all 8 victims gathered at the marina where their children had last been seen alive. Linda Morrison approached Alex hesitantly. "Is it true? Did they really find Jake's body?" Alex shook his head. "Not yet, but Agent Donnelly says they've located several potential burial sites based on Brennan's records. They're bringing in cadaver dogs and ground-penetrating radar." Linda nodded, wiping her eyes. "At least we'll know. After 5 years of wondering, we'll finally know." As the sun set over Cedar Lake, Agent Donnelly called Alex aside for a private conversation. "Brennan's talking," she said. "Not everything, but enough. He's confirmed the locations of 3 burial sites. We should be able to recover the remains within the next few days." Alex felt a mixture of relief and renewed grief. What about the others? The people helping him? Holloway's already flipped. He's giving us everything. Bank records, meeting locations, communication methods. He's looking at conspiracy to commit murder charges, so he's motivated to cooperate. And the corruption network? Donnelly's expression darkened. Bigger than we initially thought. Brennan had contacts in multiple law enforcement agencies, insurance companies, even the Coast Guard. This is going to take months to fully unravel. But you'll get them all? Every last one of them. That night, Alex sat on the dock at North Point Marina, staring out at the dark water where his brother had died. The lake looked peaceful in the moonlight, giving no hint of the violence it had witnessed. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. For a moment, his heart raced. Another threat, another piece of Brennan's network trying to silence him. But when he opened the message, it was from Pete Sullivan, the marina manager. Saw the news. Tyler would be proud. His friends can finally rest in peace. Alex smiled for the first time in days. Tyler's friends. His friends, too, now. 8 young people who had died trying to enjoy a weekend on the lake, victims of one man's greed and corruption. But their deaths hadn't been in vain. Tyler's investigation had exposed a criminal network that had operated for years. Brennan would spend the rest of his life in federal prison. The corrupt officials who had helped him would face justice. And most importantly, no other families would have to endure what the Camdens, the Reeves, the Morrisons, and the others had suffered. Alex pulled out his phone and scrolled to a photo from Tyler's flash drive. The 8 friends on the dock, arms around each other, smiling at the camera. Tyler was in the center, looking happy and carefree, completely unaware that he was about to embark on his final investigation. "We got him, little brother," Alex whispered to the dark water. "We got them all." In the distance, he could see the lights of the federal command post still burning bright. The investigation would continue for months, but the hardest part was over. Justice, finally, was coming to Cedar Lake. 3 months later, Alex stood in the small cemetery outside town, watching as 8 white headstones were unveiled in a row. The FBI had recovered all the remains from Brennan's burial sites: Tyler, Jake, Sophia, Emma, Madison, Ashley, Rachel, and Chloe, finally coming home after 5 years in unmarked graves. The families had decided to bury them together, side by side, the way they'd lived their last day, as friends on an adventure that should have brought them home safe. Patricia Camden placed a small American flag next to Tyler's headstone. Her hands were steady now, no longer shaking with the uncertainty that had haunted her for half a decade. "He saved so many people," she said quietly to Alex. "All those families who would have lost their children if Tyler hadn't left that evidence." Alex nodded, throat tight. The investigation had revealed that Brennan was planning to target at least 3 more groups: the Westfield University Sailing Club, a church youth group from Memphis, and a family reunion that would have included 6 children, all of them alive because Tyler had refused to stay quiet. Agent Donnelly approached as the other families began to drift away from the graveside service. She looked tired but satisfied, the expression of someone who'd spent months building an airtight case. "Brennan pled guilty this morning," she said. "Life without parole. No deal, no reduced sentence. He'll die in federal prison." "Good," Alex said simply. Holloway got 15 years. Walsh got 12. The marina managers who helped stage the thefts got 5 to 8 years each. Donnelly paused. "In total, we arrested 19 people in 6 states. The corruption network was even bigger than Tyler documented." Alex stared at his brother's headstone. Tyler Camden, 1994 to 2017, beloved son and brother, hero. What about the other cases? The earlier victims? "We've identified 12 additional victims going back 8 years. Brennan kept meticulous records, probably for blackmail purposes, but it helped us close a lot of cold cases." Donnelly's voice softened. 12 families who finally have answers because of what you and Tyler did. The wind picked up, rustling the flowers that covered the fresh graves. Alex could smell the lake in the distance, the scent that would always remind him of that summer day when 8 friends had set out for what should have been a perfect weekend. "There's something else," Donnelly said. She handed Alex a manila envelope. "Brennan's assets were seized as part of the federal case. The house, the boats, the salvage business, everything. But there was also a life insurance policy. $2 million. Alex stared at the envelope. I don't want his money. It's not his money anymore. It's restitution. The court is dividing it among the victims' families. She paused. Your share is enough to start that Marine Safety Foundation you mentioned. Alex had told Donnelly about his idea during one of their many interviews, a foundation dedicated to boat safety education and missing persons investigations. Something to make sure other families wouldn't have to endure what his had gone through. Tyler would like that, Patricia said, overhearing. He always wanted to help people. As the cemetery emptied, Alex found himself alone with the 8 graves. The headstones were simple white marble, each engraved with the same dates. Born in the mid-1990s, died July 14, 2017. Lives cut short by one man's greed, but their deaths had meaning now, had purpose. Alex pulled out his phone and scrolled to the last photo Tyler had taken. The 8 friends on the boat dock, arms around each other, smiling at the camera. Young and happy and completely unaware of what was coming. He'd had the photo enlarged and framed. It sat on his kitchen table now, a reminder of what he was fighting for every time he felt like giving up. His phone buzzed with a text from Aaron Mills, the drone operator who'd started it all. Saw the news about Brennan's sentencing. Your brother would be proud. More messages followed. From Pete Sullivan at the marina. From families of other victims. From strangers who'd followed the story and wanted to help with the foundation. A community built on tragedy, but determined to prevent future tragedies. As Alex walked back to his truck, he passed the small memorial that had been erected near the cemetery entrance. A granite bench with a plaque that read, "In memory of Tyler Camden, Sophia Reeves, Jake Morrison, Emma Clark, Madison Torres, Ashley Bennett, Rachel Kim, and Chloe Martinez." 8 friends who will never be forgotten. Below the names was a quote Tyler had written in his journal, found among his evidence files. The truth doesn't disappear just because someone tries to bury it. It waits, and eventually it finds its way to the surface. Alex sat on the bench for a moment, watching the sun set over the hills that surrounded Cedar Lake. Somewhere beyond those hills, Brennan was beginning his first night in federal prison. Holloway and the others were in county lockup, awaiting transfer to their own long sentences. Justice wasn't perfect. It couldn't bring back 8 young lives or erase 5 years of family anguish. But it was something. Alex's phone rang, his mother's number. "Are you okay, honey?" Patricia asked. "I know today was hard." "I'm okay, Mom. Actually, I think I'm better than okay." Alex looked at the memorial plaque, at the names of 8 friends who'd died together and been buried together. "I think Tyler would be proud of how this turned out." "I know he would be." As Alex drove home through the gathering darkness, he thought about the Tyler Camden Marine Safety Foundation that would open its doors next month. About the families who would never have to wonder what happened to their missing loved ones because Brennan's network had been dismantled. About 8 college friends who'd wanted nothing more than a perfect weekend on the lake and who'd instead exposed the biggest corruption scandal in the state's history. Tyler and his friends were finally at peace, and their story, their sacrifice, would prevent other families from experiencing the same nightmare. In the end, that was enough. That was justice. That was how love conquered evil, one truth at a time.